Welcome to ActiveI's ActiveImage Protectors tutorial videos. This is Robert from the ActiveI webinars. In this video, I'll be demonstrating how to use vStandby, a software solution that creates and maintains virtual standby replicas of your physical or virtual machines in order to provide a switchover option in the event of failure of the live source machine. The virtual standby replica is kept current by scheduling tasks that regularly create incremental boot points of the source machine. This ensures a successful startup of the virtual standby replica at the time of the switchover. Let's begin at the ActiveImage Protector graphical user interface. Start by selecting Standby in the left menu and then clicking vStandby. The Welcome to vStandby window is now displayed. Click Create Virtual Standby Replica. Now the Select Source Disk window is displayed. Select and tick the checkbox of the source disk from the disk map or from the List tab to create the standby virtual replica. Click Next. Now select the hypervisor where the standby virtual replica will be hosted. Depending on which hypervisor is the designated host for the standby virtual replica, tick the radio button for ESXi or Hyper-V. For this video, we'll be selecting Hyper-V as the host and then entering the IP address of that Hyper-V host. Click Connect. Now enter the credential information in the pop-up window to log on to the Hyper-V host. We'll enter Administrator for the username and then input the password. The Hyper-V host information is now displayed. Click Next. Configure the hardware settings for the virtual standby replica in the VM settings. Let's begin by giving a name to the virtual machine and the associated VHDX file. Next, select a volume, then a folder from the hypervisor for the virtual machine. Now we'll designate the disk type, assign the number of CPUs, and set the amount of memory for the virtual machine. For network settings, select the values for virtual switch and IP config. To use the same values as the source machine, select the virtual switch, and for IP config, select Use Source Settings. Click Next. Configure the weekly or monthly schedule for creating incremental boot points on the virtual standby replica. For this video, we'll schedule the incremental boot points to be created daily from 9 a.m. to 1600 hours using 60-minute intervals. And as we would like to get started creating boot points, we'll set the effective start date at the default so that the schedule kicks in right after we complete the configuration. The By Event checkbox, when ticked, will run the next boot point creation task should the source machine encounter a shutdown or a restart. Click Next. Now let's configure the options settings. Specify the number of boot points to create up to a maximum of 30 for the virtual standby replica. Note that when the number of boot points reaches the predefined limit, the oldest two boot points will be merged. By expanding the scripts section, you have the option to execute scripts that run specific commands at right before or right after boot point creation or at the boot point creation. This option is particularly helpful if there is a non-compliant VSS service, database engine, or application that requires pausing when snapshots are taken. The next three options include adjustments to task prioritizing, limiting the amount of network bandwidth used, and I/O throttling when creating boot points. The final option is to set up an email notification to alert you of the success and/or failure of the completed task. Click Next. Review your configuration in the summary window. Click Finish to proceed. The task will start and create the virtual standby replica on the host hypervisor. Once the virtual standby replica has been created, click OK to create the first boot point now, or click Later to have the first boot point creation task executed according to the configured schedule. When the task schedule configuration is complete, the console defaults to the dashboard view displaying task progress. The dashboard displays the boot point task results. Any boot point can be selected and used to boot the standby virtual replica should a switchover become necessary. The virtual standby replica can be monitored from the Hyper-V Manager. In this video, the incremental disk changes of the source machine are taken on 60-minute intervals and added as checkpoints to the virtual standby replica. This concludes our tutorial on ActiveImage Protector's vStandby. Should you have any questions, issues or concerns, or you just need support assistance, please contact us at Actify by email or phone. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your interest in Actify's ActiveImage Protector's vStandby solution.